Hello and welcome to In the Light, Growing Your Soul with me, Anna Isabel. And for those of you who are regular watchers of this program, you know that we cover a wide range of topics. And so it is that when a few months ago I came across a wonderful book called Aikido, The Art of Transformation, I couldn't resist because we have not yet explored this subject on this channel. So I am delighted to welcome Laurin Herr, one of the authors of this wonderful book. Hello, Laurin.
Hello.
I think it would be good to start by looking at what Aikido actually is.
Certainly. Um, Aikido is a modern martial art, first established in 1924. Um Aikido literally means uh, the way of spiritual harmony. Uh, I in Japanese is harmony, ki is energy or chi, prana, and do is a way or a path. Um, It is, as a martial art, it's often described as a non-violent martial art, even though that's kind of an oxymoron. But because it aspires to non-violence, that is, faced with a potentially violent situation, can you resolve it harmoniously? And because the philosophy is quite uh, general purpose, that is, we come across conflicts at any place in our life. It doesn't have to be a physical attack or somebody, shouting at you in your face, but it could be at home with your children, with your spouse, could be at work, could be on the metro. We come across or we're faced with many situations where we have to cope with the the thing that we used to say you can't run away from this sort of thing, or you get hit in the back. And if you push, the human reaction is the other side's going to push back, and so violence begets violence, and peace also begets peace. And so uh, now this is easier said than done. Uh, I first came across Aikido as a university student more than 50 years ago, and I've been practicing ever since. And I teach now. But the real purpose of Aikido is to develop us as human beings to be better people, more sincere, that is, saying what we mean and doing what we say, um, more stable, physically stable, emotionally stable, mentally stable. But also, it's important to say Aikido is a practice that uses the context and logic of martial arts. Somebody goes to strike you, you need to get out of the way. Don't be a victim. Don't be an aggressor. Well, how can you be not a victim, not an aggressor? Well, that's the challenge. And so what Aikido teaches us is that we all have the capability, the potential to be more than we think we are. And the practice of Aikido directs us, or that, let's call it development process, towards uh, being more energetic, that is, having more energy, having more sensitivity to the situation. Um, you know, when you feel a conflict coming, can you uh, direct the energies in a different way? Can you avoid the conflict entirely? Can you, you know, uh, turn away the wrath with a kind word? Um, but of course, there is a physical practice, very energetic, uh, um, and I can talk about that some more as you like.
Yes, I'm listening to you and I'm thinking about the notion of the divine masculine that we hear people talking about as an expression of the notion of being able to stand in your power and with integrity and being able to be assertive without being aggressive and and to be assertive without being defensive either. And we know that this is an art. um, and and so I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, what a beautiful expression in practice of these principles.
Yes, and so uh, so the book is a story about uh, our teacher, Robert Nadeau, who's an eighth degree black belt in Aikido, um, and about his teacher, Ueshiba Morihei, O-sensei, or great teacher, who uh, originated Aikido. Ueshiba passed away in 1969. Um, and Robert Nadeau now is 88. And so one of the things that attracted me when I was a university student was that uh, I was told Aikido doesn't require any strength. It's not um, a force. It's not hitting and punching. And as a result, it can be practiced by children, women, men, and even into old age because there is an external practice. Here are these techniques. Somebody strikes from above, somebody punches from the middle, somebody grabs you from behind. And there is an internal practice. And one of the key ideas in the internal practice is that there are two forces of creation: yin yang, male female, up down, in out, fire water. You know, there are many words for it. But in the universe, there are this phenomena of these pairs of complementary but different forces that lead to creation. You know, um, and and so, you know, calm, assertive, uh, peaceful strength. These are just expressions of that. Um, we don't, for some, let me say this. When some students walk in the door and say, I want to do Aikido, they have different reasons. Everybody has their own reason. Some people feel weak and want to become stronger. Some people have been victims of violence and want to learn how to defend themselves. Some people are too passive and want to become more assertive. You could say that some people are too masculine or too feminine, but those are again just words. The goal is that these forces find their equilibrium inside you so that you can be balanced. Now, balanced is not the goal. It's not the end goal. Oh, I'm balanced, therefore I'm done. Balanced is a prerequisite. It's like the first, not the first, but the first is to be present, right? And to just stand there, don't do anything, just be present. But one of the consistent themes is balance. Looking from the outside, as a student progresses, they develop more physical balance, left-right balance, up-down balance. You use the word integrity. For most people, that means something about being true to your ideals or your principles, being true to yourself. And I agree. But we also talk about integration in Aikido, and we start with integrating yourself with yourself. And what I mean by that is, do your hands work with your feet? Do your hips move with your legs? You know, so a lot of Aikido is very fluid. It's in motion, and it's done primarily as pairs practice with a partner. And so a lot of the integration involves moving through sequences fluidly, passing from the left hand to the right hand, reaching with the right hand and the right foot and stepping back with the right hand and right foot and still staying stable. And these are, very fundamental goals that a student can understand and work towards. And in the process of finding more physical balance or more physical integration, most students also find an emotional satisfaction that gives them more confidence and more, let's say, positivity going out in daily life.
There is something about being connected to the body and feeling competent physically. And, what I mean by that is feeling coordinated and strong, people who are dancers, etc., who have that coordination. There is something about that gives confidence. And I was just actually, as I was listening to you, thinking about my dog and doing agility with him and watching how in that first year, when we started doing agility together, his confidence went up. And people wouldn't think that. They would think, dogs are just confident, aren't they? But they're not. Different dogs have different levels of confidence.
Yes,
But
I'm a dog lover as well.
yes, and just watching him know that he could scale certain jumps or that he could go up high on a frame and walk across it, that it's okay to go through a tunnel. You just could see his confidence in his ability to be in the world, because once we have that physical confidence, then we subconsciously, I think, start to feel like we could handle the world. We could handle the challenges a bit more. Obviously, some things still floor us, but I do think that there is something about feeling coordinated and feeling strong that spills out emotionally into everything else. And you've just said it, and I can see it.
Well, So training your dog to do agility training, you and your dog worked on that together.
Absolutely.
And before your dog gained the confidence to do those things you said, the dog had to understand what you were asking them to do. So there was a communication across species. Cross communicating with the dog is, of course, they learn certain words, sit, stop, you know, whatever. But um, dogs also pick up on mood. They pick up on tone. If you're calm, the dog will be calm. If you're agitated, the dog will get agitated. And so this really goes to, you know, what Nado Sensei calls a progression from thinking to feeling to sensing. So, what do we mean by that? Thinking is up in our head, very useful when you're working, very useful when you're driving, you know, very useful when you're calculating your taxes. Um, Feeling is not just emotion, but feelings are what happens inside your body that you sense. Right. That's a little different than what you project to the outside world. I'm happy, I'm sad. Feeling is if when you're under stress and your body's like this, right? That's not something that you're thinking through or even, wishing for. It's something that's happening to you really. And so to become sensitive to how your body reacts to the situation that you're facing is kind of the next step. It's not enough to be thinking about it. Oh, I have the concept of stress. I understand adrenal glands, endorphins, That's nice. And you certainly want your doctor to have that understanding, but it's not sufficient. It's not sufficient to live fully. So being aware or sensitive to your internal feelings is kind of the next step. And then as we progress, we get to a level of sensing. Sensing is like reading the air in the room. You can walk into a room, everybody's very happy, everybody's friendly, everybody's getting along. And that has oh, okay, I can relax, let's tell a joke, whatever. You can also walk into a room and feel tension. Hmm, go visit your friends, married friends, and you can tell immediately, did they just have a fight before I walked in the door? Or are they in agreement about, what they're doing for dinner tonight? So we can develop our sense, ourselves, to be able to sense things energetically, which is kind of the not so obvious part of Aikido. Right? So the obvious part is wrist locks and pins and throws. But the purpose of Aikido is to help us develop ourselves into better versions of ourselves. And a very important part of that is to move from simply thinking conceptually about things to feeling how our body responds to situations, to sensing the other person's intention, the other person's, um, it's a context for the conversation that you're having. Uh, in my profession, I am a Japanese English interpreter, and I work in Silicon Valley. Or I'm semi-retired now, but for many years I worked in Silicon Valley doing business development, and contract negotiations and things like that. And it turns out that the Aikido training is very helpful because what are you doing? You're trying to connect people without a common language and with cultural differences and social differences, different body languages. So you have to read both sides and somehow build a bridge. Right? Doing contract negotiations, invariably there's a point where one side wants A and the other side wants B. And they're like determined. All right. Well, can we find common ground? So, and the critical thing is to provide this uh, consistent connectivity, right? Which really means at an energetic or level, right? So that people feel like they're being heard, people feel like their intentions are being communicated, and it's very helpful. It's very helpful. Um, we we spend well we most people in life spend most of their waking hours in the area of awareness. I'm thinking, what do I have to do tomorrow? How do I add 2 plus 2 equals 4? Uh, you know, how do I fix this? How do I do this? And they have lots of ideas. Ideas are good. You know, most human activity starts with an idea, but there is more. Next step is you go down into your body, right? You learn through your body. You don't have to understand Aikido in order to do Aikido. And you don't have to understand Aikido for Aikido to have an effect on you internally. I said before that there are these two forces of creation that we look for balance, but balance is not the goal. Balance is a stage, a way station. When we start to go into this practice, we realize that there are forces at work in life that we're not aware of. That is, you can't think your way to it. You might be able to feel your way to it. You might be able to sense your way to it, but you can't conceptualize or, you know, the same is true in Zen meditation. The same is true in yoga, right? It's the doing of it that has the uh, that helps you on your path. And Aikido is a path. It's not a technique. We call it an art because we don't have the right words in English. But in Japanese, there are many such paths. Tea ceremony is a path. Flower arranging is a path. Archery is a path. Kendo is a path. There are many paths. Aikido is just another path It has its unique characteristics, you know. But my teacher in Japan uh, practiced. He was a 10th degree black belt in Aikido, a high ranked black belt in Iaido, sword drawing, a high ranked black belt in Kendo, sword, you know, fencing. But he'd practice tea ceremony in his as his relaxation because in these cases it's the the, the form of the art provides a literally a form through which energy can flow. So we like to say that in Aikido, every technique has form and function. The form might be left foot forward, stand up straight, you know, extend your arms. But the flow is the energy that flows through you. It's not my energy. The energy is all around us, right? And if we can sense that energy and allow it to flow through us, it's very difficult to say, okay, energy, flow. Just doesn't work that way, right? But if you open yourself, relax your, what Nado Sensei calls easy the eye, let your ego drop away. The ego is the I do, I do, or I control, or this is my will. Of course, Aikido is a practice, and it takes a lot of willpower to sustain the practice over many years. But it's a practice of getting out of the way of these natural universal energy flows. And, um, it's fascinated me for, these 50 years. Um,
It
but
is just this beautiful idea of allowing energy to flow. And it made me think of Reiki listening to you as well. Um, it's, but of course, this is anyone who is exploring spirituality through one means or another will recognize what you have said about staying, just getting out of the way to allow the energy to flow, whether it's energy healing, whether it's mediumship. We're all having to do the same thing, to just get out of the way and allow the energy to flow. And I think that you have described a very beautiful practice, actually. Um, it is one of the things that made me want to have you here to talk about it. Um, just what is the difference in your mind between Aikido as a practice and something like Qigong um, or Tai Chi?
the form is different. The principles are the same.
I like that. That's very simple, isn't it?
Um, Aikido as an art, so Qigong is usually practiced solo. Tai Chi can be practiced in pairs or solo, but for most people, it's a solo practice, even if you do it with a group. Aikido is typically done as pairs. We take turns. I'll be the attacker, you be the receiver. And then we do left, right, and then we switch. Um, and because of that, the relationship to another human being in motion is a very important part of it. So the relationship between two people in motion, and on the mat it is in physical motion, but in a marriage or a business relationship, it might not be in physical motion. It could be expressed different ways. It means that you have to treat your partner with respect. You have to respect their power. You have to respect their attack. You have to protect them from themselves. We have techniques in Aikido that have been adopted by police around the world that are very handy for walking your drunk friend out of a bar before they get into a fight. Right? You don't want to break them. They're your friend. On the other hand, if you leave them be, they're probably going to get into a fight. And so we uh, we have this practice that is a lot of the motions look very natural. That is, they are motions that occur in nature. They're very, many cases, fluid, like water. Right? Um, you know, we the founder of Aikido said that the motions of Aikido are. He uses this image of a circle, a square, and a triangle. Well, some of the motions are circular, round and round. Uh, that means a relationship between being in the center and having things go around you. Other techniques are like triangles. They're pointed and directed. In I'm going here. I'm stepping from here to there with intentionality. And some are like a square or a cube. They're very stable. At the same time, they have a very clear sense of left, right, front, back. Whereas in a circular motion, it's a sense of center versus circumference. And in a triangular motion, which direction is the point facing? Well, you can analyze different techniques. Oh, this one's more circular, or this one's more square, this one's more triangular. But the real goal is to be able to move without hesitation, without thinking, as required by the situation that you're facing, from a circular approach to a triangular approach to a square approach, whatever. It's this ability to shift spontaneously, intuitively, um, as needed to face the situation. Another way to put that is in life, we might have a situation where we need to be a kind of stable character, right? Well, okay, squared away, right? You can put a lot of weight on me. I'll hold it. You can push. I'll hold my ground. Another situation might require you to be more spherical, right? And so this ability to shift at the technique level is really designed to teach us how to shift into the character that's required for the situation at hand. So just if I finish that, if I go to work, I'm, let's say I'm a manager, my job is to coordinate people and to give them direction and to You know, have you done this? Do that tomorrow. Here's our goal. Let's all work together. And at the end of the day, when I go home and I open the door to my house and my children run towards me and my wife looks at me, I'd better change my character because being a manager at home, in my experience, is not the way to domestic harmony, right? And so you might have to become a better listener, or you might have to go from being stern to being playful, right? So we want to develop within ourselves this uh, ability to rise to the occasion as needed without thinking real hard about it.
I love that. But I'm now going to ask you a very practical question because there are people out there watching who are going to think, "Oh, I'd really like to do this," but will be worried that it requires a really high level of fitness. And I know you said that it's meant to be, that all ages can participate and that, but for somebody starting out, does it matter if they haven't been doing active exercise, or do they have to do something a little bit active just to get into shape to be able to do this? What is your what advice can you give us?
Doesn't require any preparation. You don't have to be a certain level of strength or fitness. Aikido as a practice can be done slowly or quickly. Um, the we have we learn how to fall in Aikido. It's one of the basic techniques is learning how to fall. Um, and for some people, especially young people, it's relatively easy. And some of them, it's like they like to fly. And so when they're thrown and they realize that they can be thrown, land, roll, and get up, not only unhurt, but, have had the experience of, flying through the air safely, they want more. It feels good. But it's also keeping them safe, right? Because, you know, falling down, you can hurt yourself. So we had forward rolls and backward falls and all these different things. Getting up from the fall is the most aerobic part of Aikido. And so when we practice in pairs, we take turns. And so now's my time to be the thrower, and now's your time to be the attacker and also the one who receives the technique and falls down. Um, if somebody comes to a class and they're way out of shape, they're overweight or they're stiff, teacher takes that into consideration. And we teach each other. There is a teacher in a class who says, okay, we're going to here's the form, here's what you should pay attention to, whatever. But a lot of the learning in Aikido is done with your partner. So a more senior person could be a week more senior or 10 years more senior. We all practice together. So in most schools, there's not a, you know, separation according to experience. Many cases, even in my school, we have a beginner's class on a separate day, but during general classes, everybody practices together. Um, and so, when I said earlier, you have to respect your partner, if you sense that your partner is out of shape or you sense that your partner is frail, well, you have to adjust, you know. Uh, Women have smaller wrists than men. Doesn't stop you doing Aikido, but it, you know, be cognizant of the fact that people are different. They come in all shapes and sizes. And um, last year we had a student, uh, really big young man. He was a high school student, right? And he was, I don't know, 6 foot 4 inches, uh, you know, taller than I am, bigger than I am, and he'd never been athletic at all. His parents encouraged him to do this so that he would become more active, get off the video games. His biggest challenge was falling. He was worried that if he fell, he'd break himself. And so we start falling from a kneeling position rather than a standing position. We use thicker mats. Eventually, in my prime, I could fall on the asphalt without harm. I don't know now. I'm quite a bit older now. But the initially, the obstacles in your head, especially with this person and others that I've taught, when they get over their fears and realize that they can do it, that they have enough form that they can be safe. I've seen people's lives change from that. I had a student once who struggled with falling day after day. And when you don't fall correctly, when you fall correctly, you're kind of round and no corners, right? No corners being your like elbows and things like that. And when you are afraid, that collapses and you hit your corners and you get bruised, or you can get bruised. We were practicing outdoors. After 2 months of effort, he got it. And then he moved. His life's changed and he stopped practicing. And a few months later, he wrote me, I just wanted you to know that I moved out of the rooming house I was in and I got my own apartment and I got a job and I'm now dating a girl. So he had been living in this room, rented room, no work, no prospects, no women, you know, and he blossomed. Um, and he ascribed, and I agree, that it was this practice of learning how to fall. And
Ultimately, we're looking at removing fear, and that breeds confidence. So I think that's
yes,
a
yes.
wonderful, a wonderful story, and it's adding to the reasons why everyone watching should be looking to see where they can find Aikido lessons close to them. But in the meantime, the book that we have been discussing is called Aikido, The Art of Transformation. And I'll be putting a link to it in the description box. And Laurin, thank you so very much for taking the time to discuss this with us today. If people want to find you, is there a website?
Uh, there is a website for the book, www.nadoshihan.com, NADEUSHIHAN.com. Before we go, I want to make clear that these lessons that I've been talking about, you don't have to do Aikido to take advantage of these lessons. Our teacher, Robert Nadeau, who's on the cover of the book, has spent his life trying to uh, find the right words to communicate these principles to people who don't do Aikido, right? So we have a practice we call open and settle. Well, open your mind, open your heart, open your awareness, and settle down. The book is full of stories of people who use that practice. One of my favorites is a woman in New Zealand who uh, described how her, 8-year-old daughter, she went to braid her hair before school, and her daughter had a tantrum. And one response could be, be quiet or go to your room. And instead, she opened to her daughter's upset, kept herself settled down, and within a minute or two, her daughter explained that the girls at school had teased her about her hair, and she was so worried that her mom didn't braid it right, that they'd pick on her or something like that. And it was resolved. So this idea of opening yourself and settling down, even under pressure, especially under pressure, these sort of lessons, or the one I said before about distinguishing being the kind of character you are at work and the character you need to be at home, these don't require martial arts. They got nothing to do with martial arts. They have to do with being a better version of yourself.
Exactly. And so the book, again, is a wonderful way to begin to explore these ideas and to start developing the ability to practice them. Because no matter who we are, there's always room for growth and improvement. And the reminder again of the title of the book is Aikido, the Art of Transformation. Laurin, again, I thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much.
And thank you all for watching. Next time, we're going to be looking at Kriya Yoga. Until then, goodbye.